What up, guys? It's Dom, and welcome back to another movie review. Today we are going to be going over and ranking A Million Ways to Die in the West. A Million Ways to Die in the West, released in 2014, written and directed by Seth MacFarlane. As a cowardly farmer begins to fall for the mysterious new woman in town, he must put his newly found courage to the test when her husband, a notorious gunslinger, announces his arrival. Let's get right into the 10 essential aspects of a movie. The first essential aspect is plot. So obviously this movie is a comedy, and in a lot of comedies, the plot takes a back seat. It's not really of trying to make this story really good. It's more about making it funny to make the audience laugh. And I thought for the plot, for what it was, the romantic part, I thought it was a pretty good plot. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it was good enough to still keep you interested in the movie along with laughing with all of the comedy and all of the jokes that it said. So honestly, I feel like the plot for what it was pretty good. The second essential aspect is attraction. I thought this movie was very entertaining. I mean, I've watched this countless of times, and even now, after watching it for who knows how many times, I still thought it was funny. There were still scenes that made me laugh. I just think it's Seth MacFarlane. I think he's just a really good writer for these jokes, and he knows comedy really well. So it helps that not only was he the main actor in it, but he also directed and wrote it. I think that obvious. I mean, obviously, everyone knows he's done Family Guy, he's done American Dad, he's done these really funny cartoons, and he has done some live action stuff too, like Ted, for example. And I love the Ted movies, and it's probably just because he knows how to write a good comedy. So yeah, I didn't even think I had to say it. Of course, this movie is funny, which is its main point, so I think it did a great job there too. The third essential aspect is theme. I'm not really sure there is a theme to this movie. I mean, the only thing I can think of is like Western, but that's not really a message. That's just the theme of the movie. So yeah, I'm just going to say I have no idea what the theme would be. The fourth essential aspect is dialogue. I thought the dialogue in this movie was pretty good. I mean, conversations did feel real between characters. Maybe that's because it really didn't have something holding back, like it with swearing especially, it makes it feel more real. So maybe that's why the conversation felt real, because it wasn't anything special, the dialogue between the characters. But what was good was, obviously, I'm going to say this again, the jokes. The writing was really good for what the characters to say, with perfect comedic timing and things like that. So honestly, I think the dialogue was pretty good. Nothing that's really Oscar worthy and like really good dialogue where it makes the characters feel extremely real, but they felt real enough to keep me invested. The fifth essential aspect is acting. So overall, I mean, I liked the acting in this movie. A lot of the characters knew what they were doing, and then there was obviously just okay acting, but there wasn't any bad acting in this. But the three actors that I do want to talk about is obviously Seth MacFarlane, who played Albert. He is the main character. He is the star of this movie. And he does really well. He does really well being this comedic, cowardly figure that eventually, obviously, gains a little bit of braveness. But I just think that him playing that character, especially since he wrote the character, he directed everything, he knew how to play it to the best that it could be. So obviously, I would say he's the perfect choice for the character, but that's just because he himself wrote that character. And he did a great job. I really liked his character. I think he did a great job with both dialogue and acting and convincing me that he is Albert. And I want to talk about Charlize Theron, who played Anna. She did a good job as well, being the main love interest for the second half of the movie. And overall, I mean, She did a good job, maybe because she was just on the screen more, because a lot of the okay acting was really just side characters that just kind of appeared in and out, but weren't really mainly in it. So they were both Albert and Anna were the two main characters. So both Seth MacFarlane and Charlize Theron did a really good job, maybe because they were on the screen the most. I don't know, but I just liked their acting in this. And then one of the side characters I want to talk about, Foy, played by Neil Patrick Harris. He was real funny. I don't know why. It just reminded me of Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother, which is a character that he played. And he just did a really good job. He was funny. He had that kind of attitude that I was looking for in a character like that. He was trying to be like the bad boy, but he's funny in a way. So I don't know. I thought those three in particular did do the best acting out of everyone, but there wasn't any bad acting in this movie. The sixth essential aspect is cinematography. So when it comes to the look of this movie, I did like how Western it did look. They did do a good job with that. And when it comes to the emotions, when obviously everything got resolved in the end, I didn't really feel like crazy emotion. I mean, I was glad that they finally got together, and the whole point of the little plot that there was in this movie, when it got resolved, I know I'm supposed to feel some kind of emotion, and I did a little bit, but it wasn't anything that really blew me out of the water. And maybe that's because I was more focused on the comedy. Because when it comes to laughing and everything, this movie does a great job. It brings the comedy out of me. But when it came to actually being emotionally attached to the characters, it did okay. The seventh essential aspect is editing. So this movie is an hour and 56 minutes long, and honestly, I think that's a pretty good length. Obviously, comedies do usually run shorter because the whole point is to make them laugh. It's not really to tell a story. But since this one did have a little bit of a story to tell, I'm glad they kind of did push it past like an hour and a half. I'm glad they kept it longer. And I'm glad they didn't go too long to the point where the comedy gets dry. So I think that this honestly is really good length. If they had to change it, I would go slightly shorter, but I don't think they should change it. The eighth essential aspect is soundtrack. So obviously, usually I don't talk about the soundtrack too much in movies because there isn't anything that stands out to me, at least the movies I've reviewed so far. But this one particular song, which is the Mustache song, I thought that was awesome. And it got stuck in my head. I'm going to play a little clip here, trying not to get demonetized.
A mustache, big mustache, thick mustache, my mustache, your mustache. Say the word mustache. A mustache, a mustache. Now we both have said mustache. A mustache, a mustache. If you only got a mustache.
Yeah, that just gets stuck in my head. It's so awesome. But yeah, I thought the soundtrack, it was okay, but when it came to that song, they nailed it. The ninth essential aspect is directing. So the director of this movie is Seth MacFarlane, and it was his job to take these previous 8 essential aspects, put them together to make a movie that's worth watching. And I obviously think he did. I think it is a movie that's worth watching. It's definitely a good comedy. And he previously directed one movie, and that is Ted. He's only done one movie before that. He also did Ted 2 afterwards, the Ted TV show after that, and also obviously all these other TV shows beforehand. But I mean, I like it. I like his style of comedy a lot. And that might be some bias to me. I don't know. I just think the way that he writes jokes, he has really no remorse. He makes them really funny and real. So maybe that's why I like it so much. But yeah, I think he did a great job with this movie. And that does not surprise me. And the 10th essential aspect is time. Will A Million Ways to Die in the West stand the test of time? I think, personally, it just depends on what kind of comedy you like. If you like this kind of comedy like me, it will stand the test of time. It won't be one of the better ones in this category, but I think it still will stand the test of time. Otherwise, I feel like it might not. It's just a very middle of the road movie when it comes to substance, but when it comes to the comedy, I think it does elevate it. So I want to say it stands the test of time, but you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Now, on to the reviews. So the reviews were surprisingly low, especially on Rotten Tomatoes, but either way, Rotten Tomatoes critics gave it a 33%, Rotten Tomatoes audience gave it a 41%, and IMDb gave it a 61%. I don't know why they think 33 and 41 make any sense, so I'm just going to remove them right away. I think 61 does make a little more sense, because when it comes to the substance, I think it definitely is there. I think the comedy elevates it. This might be like a 65 to a 70 for me. I'm thinking maybe slightly higher. I'm not sure, but it's a good movie. I will rewatch this movie. I enjoyed myself watching this movie. I loved the comedy. I loved the jokes. The characters were funny and interesting. So, yeah, I definitely think that Rotten Tomatoes did not get anywhere near the ballpark, and IMDb was pretty close. And finally, the rankings. Where will A Million Ways to Die in the West rank in its year, decade, and in all time? Let's find out starting in 2014. It's going to be second below X-Men Days of Future Past. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this because obviously X-Men Days of Future Past is a better movie. I think the plot's more interesting, the characters are more vast, and also just a better watch. I mean, it's X-Men, it's really good. It's one of my favorite X-Men movies, which is probably why it's such an easy decision for me. But I just think if the plot was a little better in A Million Ways to Die in the West, it might have a chance because I'd bring it up a lot on the list. But as it is right now, X-Men Days of Future Past beats it outright 10 times out of 10. So I'm not going to spend too much more time talking about that. And in the 2010s, it's going to be 11th, above Warcraft and below X-Men Apocalypse. Now, it's above Warcraft, clearly, because Warcraft was a good movie. I think the characters were interesting, the plot was interesting, and the visuals were really good. But as much as I was interested in the story, that didn't start happening until like halfway through. I mean, I was somewhat interested, but I really didn't get clung into the story until like maybe 45 minutes in. Nah, probably like 30 minutes in. But A Million Ways to Die in the West, right away I was already invested and interested in watching it when I was watching it for the first time. So I just, I don't know, the gap's not too big, but there's a gap indeed. And it's below X-Men Apocalypse because I mean it's just for the same reasons as X-Men Days of Future Past. I mean I like X-Men Apocalypse. I think the characters and the plot is interesting, but this one is way closer to. I almost wanted to put A Million Ways to Die in the West over it, just because as much as I love X-Men Apocalypse, it isn't one of the best X-Men movies or Marvel movies or movies in general. And I think A Million Ways to Die in the West is absolutely really funny. So it was harder, but I just decided, yeah, I can't put it above Apocalypse. I just think it is the better movie overall. If I had to choose one to watch, I would have watched Apocalypse. And in all time, it's going to be 16th, above X2 and below The Fall Guy. Now, it's above X2. I just think maybe it's just because X2 came out in 2003. This movie came out in 2014. Maybe they had more time to just make it look better. But even if I'm taking visuals out of the equation, I just think X2 plot is good. The characters are good. I just think A Million Ways to Die in the West, just it clung me in a little more. As much as I am a Marvel fan and I love all the characters in X2, it's a great movie. I'll definitely want to rewatch it. I just think A Million Ways to Die in the West belongs above it, especially since if I had to get rid of one, I'd rather get rid of X2 just because there's so many better X-Men movies out there. And it's below The Fall Guy, and for me, I don't even know if it's too close. I just think both are funny, both are interesting, and The Fall Guy just has way better concept and a way better plot. I really could not, since if The Fall Guy wasn't funny, maybe then it could push above it, but I just think where the movies stand, The Fall Guy is the better movie. It definitely deserves to be above A Million Ways to Die in the West. That's all I have for A Million Ways to Die in the West. If you guys enjoyed this review, leave a like and subscribe, and definitely comment what movie you want me to review next. Let me know what you guys think of this movie, because I might be a little biased with the comedy, but who knows, maybe I'm actually underbiased and I'm putting it way lower than I need to. But you guys let me know. Hope you guys have an amazing day. Peace out.